This segment sponsored by Foster Financial. Welcome back to Women's Wealth Wednesday, where we provide you with holistic financial advice from Foster Financial. And joining me is their Vice President, Caleb Doan. Hey, Caleb.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing?
Good. Okay, so we've been talking over the last probably a couple of months about spousal inheritance planning and what that looks like. So we talked about IRAs and brokerage accounts and ways that the spouse can access the funds. And so what is the final stage of this?
The last one we'll talk about is annuities. And this is pretty common, a common type of account for people to have. And it's probably one of the more complex accounts to inherit as well. Whether you're a spouse or a child inheriting these accounts, there's a lot of different options that you have when you take it over. If you look at like the forms that they'll send you, if you basically call the insurance company and say, hey, my spouse passed away, I'm the beneficiary, can you send me the forms that I need to fill out? There will sometimes be 8 different options on that form for what to do with that annuity going forward. So I mean, there's lump sum, you can take it over as the owner if you're the spouse, there's 5-year deferrals, there's stretch payments, there's a ton of different options, and all of them have very big tax implications. And so, it's a really big decision that somebody makes, and so it's important to kind of probably chat with somebody and identify, hey, how is this actually going to impact me, and what are my goals with this policy?
Right. So with that being different, so what would you say? So the first step would be to contact a financial advisor.
Probably.
With all those options. But you were saying that they have to make these decisions. So they don't make these same decisions on the other accounts that we talked about, like the pensions and the brokerage accounts. You're saying this one's more complicated?
This one's a lot more complicated. Those other accounts still have some options there, but the annuities certainly are the ones that have, the large array of options that you have, probably the most that you have to choose from. And a lot of times people will end up defaulting to take like a lump sum because they think, I don't want to like try to understand all these different weird options. I'm just going to take the lump sum payment. And that's typically the one where you get taxed the most, of course. And so a lot of times we like to sift through that and say, hey, what are your goals for this? Here's the best option for you.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you're advising someone, they inherit their spouse's annuity. And so what is one of the first things you look for?
So we talked about brokerage accounts, several series ago. And with like an individual brokerage account that, let's say, a husband has, if he were to pass away and leave it to his wife, it gets a stepped up cost basis, meaning she could turn around and cash out the policy and there'd be no growth on it and she wouldn't pay a dime in taxes. With a non-qualified annuity, that's not the case. It does not get a step up in cost basis. And so if it had a couple $100,000 of growth in that policy and then it goes to her, if she cashes it out, all of a sudden you're realizing a couple $100,000 of gain in 1 year, and you're paying a ton to the government in taxes, and it's actually at an even higher tax rate than what it would be in a brokerage account.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the difficulties with non-qualified annuities. That's one of the reasons a lot of times if people are kind of in their early stages in retirement, we actually start to unwind some of these non-qualified annuities ahead of time.
Right.
Because they're probably one of the least tax advantaged accounts to inherit. And so over time we'll say, hey, especially if you have more than enough money in retirement, you have a fully funded retirement, we'll start to unwind some of these non-qualified annuities because we don't want to leave, a spouse or kids in a difficult tax situation down the road.
And so let's say that they do get one of those policies that you're mentioning. How do they navigate them?
So one of the options that spouses have that children don't have is to just take over the policy basically as if you were the owner. And then you can keep the policy for the rest of your life. The issue is sometimes there were benefits, features, we call them riders on that annuity that maybe the husband had that won't continue on for the wife when she takes it over. One of the most common ones is an income rider. And so there might have been that rider on the policy that gave the husband $1,000 a month from the policy, and they were both using that to live off of. Once the wife inherits that rider might not continue on for her life. So there's kind of an analysis that needs to be done. We need to say, all right, do you need this income for the policy? Do you want to, use this to generate income? Is it for growth? Or are you using this for inheritance planning? And all of that will determine what we do with it. Maybe we keep it at the same insurance company. Maybe we cash it out. Maybe we cash it out over 5 years. Maybe we exchange it for a different annuity that does have an income rider. So there's about 1,000 different options that you can choose from when you're inheriting these policies. And it's hard to kind of know what all the options are if you haven't dealt with it before. And so that's where a financial advisor can come into play.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, because, really, like we talked about, so the pension, the brokerage accounts, the annuities, and there was one more.
IRAs.
IRAs.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of those are accounts that people can inherit.
Yeah.
What can they do now before they lose their spouse to make sure that they understand what accounts they have and to make this process easier?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we do. We do Roth conversions ahead of time. Of course, we make sure that beneficiaries are listed correctly on all of these types of accounts, but one of the big things for IRAs, we do Roth conversions ahead of time. For pensions, we make sure we know if there's a spousal benefit on it or not. For some of these annuities, maybe we start to unwind them ahead of time. For the brokerage accounts, we kind of take a look at the gain that's in there and we make a plan for it. So it's kind of a different prescription for every different type of account. And people have complex financial lives, right? And so that's where working with somebody can help add some simplification to that and make a plan so that you feel confident.
Exactly. Working with someone like you.
There we go.
But in advance, though, that's the important thing. You don't have to wait until you lose your spouse. Start planning now so it can be smoother. Nothing's ever easier, but just smoother then.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, Caleb.
Yeah.
And if you would like more information about Foster Financial and setting up an appointment, they'll bring you in, give you some warm cookies, and talk to you all about your options. I'll have their phone number listed below, and I'll see you after the break.
This segment sponsored by Foster Financial.